Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandom at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
Here we go, another Football by Numbers bonus edition of the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, and this time it's jersey number 47. We have a couple Hall of Famers, and the rest are not in the Hall of Fame yet, but you'll find out our top 10 coming up in a moment. This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. This is your host, Darren Hayes, and we're podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So with Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff supplying us with their tunes, let's go no huddle through today's football history headlines.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes at PigskinDispatch.com, and we have a special bonus edition of the Football by Numbers series, and we're going to go over the greatest players that wore jersey, wait for it, 47, and we have some great ones for you today. It's going to be a solo mission, just me talking tonight, but we just want to ask you and tell you, welcome once again to the Pig Pen, because there are some great 47s in NFL history, and we're going to try to find them, the most substantial ones, to share with you tonight. And we'll start off with the Hall of Fame. The Pro Football Hall of Fame tells us the numbers of players that they have within their bronze bust collection at Canton, and we only have one tonight that the Pro Football Hall of Fame says we're number 47. Kind of unbelievable, only one. And that is the great Mel Blount, who played with the Pittsburgh Steelers as a cornerback from 1970 all the way to 1983. And Blount was found by Hall of Fame contributor that went in this year, Bill Nunn, who was a legend of scouting, as he went down and looked the traditionally black colleges and looked for players down there where nobody else was doing that in the early 70s or late 60s. And he went to Southern University, and according to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and Pittsburgh used the info that gained by their lead scout, Nunn, to steal Mel Blount in the third round of the 1970 NFL Draft. He stood 6'3" and weighed in at 205 pounds, and the oversized corner would play a physical game, wearing down many wide receivers in the league during his 14-year career. Blount was an All-Pro in 4 different times, and the 1975 NFL Defensive Most Valuable Player, and he started 200 of 201 games in his career. That's amazing for a cornerback. And he played and made in 5 Pro Bowls, had 57 career interceptions with 736 return yards off of them, and recovered 13 fumbles by his opponents. Now, that is just truly a great Hall of Fame career, with the 5 Pro Bowls, 2 times as an All-Pro. I don't know if we mentioned that, but 57 interceptions, and he was a big man for a corner, even in today's light, 6'3", 205. That's a big man playing a corner against some small receivers. Back then the receivers were probably, 170 pounds, 180 pounds, but he could run too. He could keep up with them, and that's why he was so successful, plus his physical style of play, which was legal back then. Remember, they were allowed to pop the receivers more than 5 yards down the field legally and get away with it. And Mel Blount, it would be our first player in our greatest top 10 number 47 NFL history. Another one that's probably going to get in there is John Lynch, and John Lynch is another great defensive back. Played a little bit after Mel Blount. Many of you remember him. He came in 1993 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, played all the way to 2007 with the Denver Broncos. So, he had 11 years with Tampa, 4 years with the Denver Broncos, and he ended up being a 2-time All-Pro himself, 9 Pro Bowls for him, and He is also now in the Hall of Fame. Failed to mention him, but he is also in the Hall of Fame going in just recently. And another outstanding player to go in there. He had 26 interceptions during his career, 204 return yards, but he was just a physical presence, coming in the box. His tackles, he had 1,059 total tackles, 727 of them were solo tackles. So he was an in-the-box safety, plus he had a little bit of, he could play against the tight ends and in coverage, but loved to hit people. A great number 47, and that's why he is our number 2 player in the top 10. And I apologize, he is also in the Hall of Fame. That was just a recent entry. So we have 2 number 47s in the Hall of Fame. Joey Browner is another interesting player we want to talk about that wore number 47 for a good portion of his career, 10 different seasons, and he came in with Minnesota in 1983 and played with Tampa Bay for one season in 1992 at the tail end of his career, so 9 years as a Viking. And he had 37 interceptions, 465 return yards off those, 3 touchdowns, 6-time Pro Bowler, 3 times as an All-Pro, all Hall of Fame 1980s team. That's a pretty good record there for a defensive back. And he is going to be our 3rd player in our top 10 of the greatest number 47s. Now, I'm going to talk about Leroy Irvin. And not a lot of people probably have heard about Irvin, but he's another good player, a good defensive back. Had 2 Pro Bowls to his credit, 2 times as an All-Pro. Came in 1980 with the Rams and played with them for 10 seasons and one final year with the Detroit Lions. And 35 interceptions, 76 yards off of them, 5 scores. Just phenomenal there. And he recovered, looks like 13 fumbles from his opponents. So another guy that just liked to get his hands on the ball and take over possession for his team, and that's what makes him our 4th player in our top 10 going in as our greatest number 47s. Ryan McNeil, another very interesting player. And Ryan came into the NFL as a defensive back in 1983. A lot of players come in 1993 with the Detroit Lions, played 4 seasons with them, played a couple years in St. Louis, a year in Cleveland, went to Dallas for a year, San Diego for a couple, and a final year in Denver, 2003. And he had 31 interceptions, 312 yards off of them, 2 touchdowns, wore 47 his entire career. That spans up to 11 years. So had some great longevity under 699 tackles, 565 of those were solo. And boy, he's got a great shot of getting in here. And I think we're going to put him in because that's some pretty good numbers. And we'll go to our next player that we're going to talk about is Glenn Blackwood. And Glenn wore that number for 9 seasons also. So he had quite a length of time wearing the number 47. And he was a Miami Dolphin his entire career, came in 1979, final season 1987 with the Dolphins. 29 interceptions, 398 yards returned off of them, 1 touchdown. Did not make any Pro Bowls though. And I think that's going to probably make us put him on standby here to look at some of our other players that we've got coming up. And one of them being Greg Jackson. Greg Jackson, double-digit years, 12 seasons overall, wearing the number 47. So some great longevity wearing that jersey. And he came in 1989 with the New York Giants, stayed there for 5 years, went to Philadelphia for a couple, New Orleans for a cup of coffee, and then the San Diego Chargers made home for him for 4 seasons, the last 4 of his career up to 2000. And he had 32 interceptions, 329 returns off of them, 2 touchdowns, very similar numbers to Mr. Glenn Blackwood. And I think we're going to put them both on standby. And we'll want to talk about Johnny Morris, who is another outstanding player, another double-digit years with number 47. Now, Johnny Morris was a flanker and a halfback. He did make 1 Pro Bowl, and he was an All-Pro 1 year, and he also was an NFL champion. Came in 1958 with the Chicago Bears, played there all the way to 1967 with some great teams, and that the Bears championship team when they won that. And he has some impressive numbers, 356 receptions for over 5,000 yards, 31 touchdowns receiving, 5 touchdowns rushing with over 1,000 yards for his career. And that's some pretty decent numbers, and I think we're going to put him in with that because of having the hardware of making those All-Pros and a Pro Bowl. So he's our 6th player in, and we've got a couple on standby. Charlie Stukes, a name that I wasn't real familiar with until I did a little bit of research on him. He's a defensive back, had 32 interceptions, 443 return yards, was a Super Bowl champion and an NFL champion, as he played for the Baltimore Colts from 1967 all the way to 1972, and then spent 2 years, 73 and 74, with the Rams. And those numbers are very comparable to our other defensive backs, except he's got a little bit of hardware from winning championships with it. But we're gonna take a look at him too, and not put him in yet, because he's very close to Glenn Blackwood and Greg Jackson's numbers. Sherman Smith, though, is another guy I want to talk about here as a defensive back, and he is also. Sorry, we got the wrong guy. The wrong card came up. Sherman Smith was a great running back, 834 rushes, 3,520 yards, 28 touchdowns, and he had another almost 2,400 yards receiving, pretty outstanding. 4.2 yards per carry on those, and the 28 touchdowns, like we said, came out of Miami of Ohio, so it was a MAC player, and pretty good numbers there. But we'll have to keep an eye on Sherman Smith. I'm not sure that he's going to make it into our top 10, but maybe Jesse Whittington will. Jesse Whittington, a lot of T's and N's in that name. And he played from 1956, came in the league with the Rams, played for 2 years, and in the rest of his career, the last 7 years of his career, was a Green Bay Packer. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, 2-time NFL champion with the Pack. 24 interceptions, 443 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, he has a few less interceptions, played in a different era, but 2 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro. I don't know. That speaks volumes to me. I think we're going to put him in as our 7th player on our list here. And we'll go through a couple more here until we talk about who we're going to complete our top 10 with. And Kent McClellan, I guess if you say it, McClellan, he was another player, a defensive back, 1965 to 1970 with the Oakland Raiders, so pretty much an AFL defensive back, but made 2 Pro Bowls, 2 times as an All-Pro, and an AFL championship, 15 interceptions, 96 yards off of those. And he's definitely got the hardware, but they are AFL numbers. I'm going to put him under consideration, I think. I'm not giving that to him quite yet because he's a little bit less numbers than the other guys do that we talked about. But Cedric Mack is another guy we want to talk about. And Mack, I can remember him. He was a good, solid defensive back. Came in with St. Louis in 1983, played with them for 5 years, played with the Phoenix Cardinals. After that, St. Louis Cardinals, the Phoenix Cardinals, longtime Cardinal, San Diego Chargers for a year, and then Kansas City and New Orleans at the end of his career. He had 20 interceptions, 178 yards off of those, and probably is not going to make it because it doesn't have any All-Pros or anything to go with that, but definitely a good player. And our last one we're going to talk about is Ronnie Coleman, and Ronnie had some interesting numbers too as a running back. 700 rushes, 2,769 yards rushing, 4.0 yards per carry, 16 touchdowns, and he also had over 1,200 yards receiving with another 6 TDs. Probably not good enough to get him in with this class of some great players. And just looking down through here, some big names, a big college name, Tyrone Wheatley, but really didn't have an impressive year in the NFL. We'll just take a peek at his numbers. But I know he went to the Giants for a little while. He was a Giant for 4 seasons, then went with the Oakland Raiders for another 6 years. And not too bad, 4,900 yards rushing, 40 touchdowns. That's not too shabby. But the number 47, he only wore for 6 of those seasons. So we'll keep him under consideration, but not sure that he's going to get on there with those numbers. And that's pretty much it for the substantial players. So far we have 7 players in: Mel Blount, John Lynch, Hall of Famers; Joey Browner, Leroy Irvin, Ryan McNeil, Johnny Morris, and Jesse Wintonton are our top 7. And we have some guys that we want to go back and reconsider. We had Glenn Blackwood, Greg Jackson, Sherman Smith, Charlie Stukes, Kent McClellan. And I think we're going to go with, I'm going to put Charlie Stukes in because his numbers were a little bit better. He had some of those All-Pros in Pro Bowls with him. Same with Kent McClellan. He's going to be our 9th player in. And, we've got to take a pick here for our last guy to get in here. And, oh boy, I think I might just go with... I think we'll go with Tyrone Wheatley because those 40 touchdowns were definitely significant for the teams he played with, the Raiders and the Giants. And there you go. There's our top 10 greatest number 47s in NFL history. We're glad you joined us once again. We hope you're enjoying this series. We'll be back in a day or two with the number 48s, another solo mission there. But then we start having a guest. We have Joe Ziemba and Rich Smelter and some George Bozica is going to come up with our number 40s. And we're going to have a lot of fun this coming week. So you want to make sure a lot of great guests and a lot of talk coming up here, getting into those late 40s and early 50s numbers. And I think you'll enjoy it with the great players that we talk about too, and some excellent stories. So make sure you check us out tomorrow. Check us out on PigskinDispatch.com. And if you have any questions or think maybe we missed somebody, write us at pigskindispatch@gmail.com, and we will be sure to make a correction on a future episode. We thank you for joining us once again. Check us out on pigskindispatch.com and sportshistorynetwork.com. Till tomorrow, everybody, have a great gridiron day. Peeking up at the clock, the time's running down. We're going to go into victory formation, take a knee, and let this baby run out. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back tomorrow for the next podcast. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. A special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
It was just another ordinary day in the offices of the Pittsburgh Guardian newspaper circa 1924. But for Marla Delft, assistant editor, everything was about to change. For she was about to discover the awesome attractiveness of Row 1 brand retro sports paraphernalia items thanks to Orville Mulligan, sports writer.
And there it is.
Wow, Orville, that's really the bee's knees.
Isn't it just? A poster-sized replica of the actual 1909 World Series program cover.
I can see that. But where did you get it? And where'd you get it framed?
I ordered it from the Row 1 website, where over 6,000 items of sports memorabilia from the 1880s to the 1990s are available for reproduction, in multiple sizes and in several different materials, with over a dozen styles of frame to choose from for prints like this.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Delft would love to put up more of these in the office. But I'm equally as sure they're beyond this newspaper's budget.
Not at all, my dear Marla. See for yourself. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com/row1.
sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. Oh my, these are good prices. Oh, and look at this stuff. Oklahoma-Nebraska football, college basketball art, Michael Jordan items.
And so
retro
it was that
sports
Marla Delft
advertisement
discovered the
flowers.
splendiferous magic of Row 1 sports memorabilia, arts, and prints. You can too by visiting sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. That's ROW1 today for access to the full Row 1 catalog of gallery prints and gifts like t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, telephone cases, coffee mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Act today for a 15% discount off all prints with coupon code SHN15 and 20% off all other items with coupon code SHN20 at checkout. And keep your dial locked to the Sports History Network for the exciting chronicles of the 1920 sports world in Orville Mulligan, Sports Writer. Coming soon.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.